Okay guys, so we're looking at 10.6 for the honors and 8.6 for math 7. Okay, so we're solving problems involving area of a circle. We covered the formula for area of a circle in the last lesson, but I want to go over it again. Area equals pi multiplied by radius squared. Okay, our essential question: how can the area formula for a circle be used to solve problems? And that's what we're going to do right now. Now you're going to have to bear with me on this. These problems are a little bit more complicated. I may even stumble over some of this stuff a little bit because I'm going to be reading from different areas in the room so that we can go over the question. This one right here, example 3. It's the one that's not answered in there, okay? So what it says is, how far away can a person live from a radio station and hear its broadcast if the signal covers a circular area of 40,000 square miles? Write an answer as a whole number. So we got to remember that whole number there, okay? So here's what they're saying. If I have a circle area and it's 40,000 miles, okay? So we're saying that the radio signal's in the middle. We're going to broadcast. They're going to see how far away is that. We have to know that they're talking about anywhere on the perimeter is how far away. And that distance from the middle of the circle, where that is, to the perimeter is the radius. So what we have to do is find the radius in this problem. Okay, so it definitely is taking some thought process here. You guys may have to ask me a lot of questions on these. Okay, so I'm going to go off of my book here because I already worked this out. So what we're looking at is we're going to go through and use this. So we know the area already is 40,000 square miles, okay? And this equals pi, which we're going to sub in for pi, is 3.14. And we're going to multiply that, and this is what we don't know, by the radius squared. So this is the same as we talked about. We need to isolate the variable, and we need to balance the equation. In other words, these are multiplication, right? When we put parentheses around them, they multiply by each other. I have to divide to get rid of this so that we can isolate radius squared. I have to divide by 3.14. But I also have to do it on the other side of the equation. Now remember, when we divide a number by itself, it becomes 1. Then 1 multiplied by r squared is just r squared. So then I'm going to divide by 3.14 here. Now I'm going to switch this around so that we always have the variable on the left. So this becomes r squared equals, remember I said I have it worked out, 12,000, and this is an approximation, okay guys? So I really should put approximately, since we're looking at whole numbers, approximately 12,739. Now at this point I need to isolate r. That means I need to get rid of the squared. The opposite of squared is the square root. So I'm going to take the square root on both sides. This cancels this out. R is by itself. Like I said, this is an approximation because we're going to go to the whole number. So that means you need to take the square root of 12,739, and it turns out that this is approximately 113. Now don't forget to actually go through and label this. It's 113 miles. So in other words, I'm going to draw it one more time. If I have the circular area that is 40,000 square miles, I got the tower in the middle. They're saying that the furthest you could be away and still get the signal is 113 miles, which just happens to be the radius. Okay guys, a little complicated, but not too bad. So if you need to, pause this, write down this information, think about it, make sure you watch the examples so that you can see the different ways they're solving these problems. All right, let's look at the next one. There's going to be a few of these, okay? Now here's the next one. This is also from example 3. That was part A. This is part B. It says, what circular area is covered by the signal if the circumference is 754 miles? Now this makes it a little bit more difficult. Okay, so first of all, we need to recognize that circumference equals pi multiplied by the diameter. Okay, so we're going to go through and we're going to start with that. And what we need to find is the radius but we need to find the diameter first because they gave us the circumference. And remember, the diameter, if we divide it by 2, we get the radius, okay? In other words, here's this, right? And they're saying that the circumference around this is 754 miles. We need to figure out how much the area would be in this. That means we need to do an area is going to equal pi multiplied by radius squared. So if we're finding the area, I need to know the radius, right? The only way to do that with the circumference is to find the diameter first and then divide it by 2. Okay? Like I said, these problems are complicated. So in other words, what I do is I substitute the 754 in for the circumference. This equals pi, and I should substitute 3.14 in for pi, right? 3.14 multiplied by the diameter. Again, we are isolating the diameter, so I divide by 3.14. But I need to balance the equation. That means I need to do it on both sides. 3.14. This is gone, right? Anything over itself is 1. 1 times d is d. I'm going to switch this around again. So the diameter would equal this. So we divide 754 by 3.14, and we get approximately, here I am again not doing the approximation, approximately 240. We divide that by 2 to get the radius, which would be approximately 120. Okay, so that means that in this example, if we have that, we have this in the middle, the circumference we knew was 754, now we know the radius is 120. That's what we found in the last problem, right? For this one, it's 120. So just by estimation, we should know that it's going to be more than 40,000 miles because the 120 is more than the 113 that we had on the last problem. Okay, so now I'm going to substitute that in for this. So that means area equals 3.14 multiplied by 120 squared. So when I square 120, my area equals 3.14. Squaring 120, in other words, 120 multiplied by 120 is 14,400. Okay? And then we multiply these two together, and remember, this will always be an approximation if we're using 3.14, because we know that pi goes on infinitely. 3.14 is simply an estimation of pi. So when I do this, the area would be approximately 45,216 miles. That's my answer. Okay, guys? A lot of steps, right? A lot of steps. Look at all that I had to do in order to get that problem. That's why I was saying I may go through and stumble through some of this. Okay? Now this next one is the XL. And it's not, it looks really complicated, but it's not as complicated as you would think. Okay, when you see me do it, you'll probably be like, Mr. DeVore, why'd you do this one? But then when you read the problem, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I understand now. Hopefully you will. Okay, so this is XL number 8. Okay, move this over as much as I can so I have plenty of room. Oh, that's too far over this way. Sorry. Okay, so this is XL number 8. And we're going to deal again with the area, so I put the formula up there. Area equals pi multiplied by radius squared. This is the one where I might mess up the wording a little bit, but hopefully not too bad. Okay, and it's going to sound really complicated when we do this, all right? So it says the radius of circle A, so we're talking about just the radius, right, is 4 centimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this and realize we're talking about the radius. So A is 4 centimeters. Now they're going to be comparing 4 different circles, and we're going to have to find the area for each circle. For B, okay, for the radius of circle B is 5 centimeters larger than A. So in other words, B would equal 9 centimeters. Okay. C, okay, C, let's see, the radius of circle C is 2 inches larger than B. So in other words, this one goes up to 11 centimeters. Okay, so each one I'm going through and calculating as I do it. It says the radius of circle D is 1 less than the radius of circle C. So 1 less than 11 would be 10 centimeters. Okay, now it says, what is the area of each circle? How many times greater than the area of circle A is the area of circle D? Now we'll take care of that first. Now here's the difference in this problem. They want you to not substitute 3.14 in for pi, but instead leave pi as pi. This is actually the most accurate way to calculate for pi. So in other words, when I do this, I'm going to say the area equals pi multiplied by 4 squared. Okay? So in other words, the area for this one is 4 squared is 16, and we leave pi as pi, so it's 16 pi. Okay, guys? When I calculate this one, again, area equals pi multiplied by 9 squared. That means this area equals 81 pi. Okay? They're going to ask you for each one, and you're going to have to put pi in instead of 3.14. Okay? Area equals pi multiplied by 11 squared. So area equals 121 pi. And then finally, area equals pi multiplied by 10 squared. Area equals 100 pi. So that's the answer for each one of those for the pi. Like I said, not that hard to calculate, but if you don't know what they mean by leave pi as pi, then you're going to have a really hard time with this. Now this last question is where you're probably going to have the most problems. It says, how many times greater than the area of circle A is the area of circle D? Now you have to realize they're saying how much greater. That means the larger one needs to be on top. In other words, this becomes D over A. This is the way we're going to do this comparison. So I'm going to put the area of D over the area of A, and I'm going to reduce it. In other words, this is 100 pi over 16 pi. Now the pi's are going to cancel each other out because pi over pi is simply 1. And then we multiply by these. Then the other part I want to do is then just take this. Remember, every fraction is a division problem, so I would go 100 divided by 16. And what we end up with is approximately, so they say to round to the nearest tenth. The answer actually comes up as 6 25/100ths. But if you go through and put this answer in, they're going to say it's wrong because they want you to actually round to the nearest tenth. If I do that, then that means this is approximately 6 3/10 centimeters. Okay, I'm sorry, 6 3/10 larger times larger. So this is 6 3/10 times larger than this circle. Okay, guys? All right, guys, so a lot of stuff to know here. Realize this is your last unit if this is Math 7. These are hard problems. This is really reaching into getting you into 8th grade. So make sure that you go through, take your time on them. That's why we're taking more time with only 2 lessons a week. And ask me questions in class on anything you don't understand. Make sure you watch these closely and watch the examples. All right, guys. Good luck.